In honor of Space Marine 2, I'm making this little video about getting into 40k as a hobby for anyone who might want to get in. Now, this is going to be a little low on humor and more in the vein of trying to provide info for new or returning players. So this time I actually have an excuse why I'm not funny. Also, this is not going to focus on lore at all, or at least very little. I've made other videos about lore in the past and will do so again in the future. This is more about dealing with the actual physical hobby. Now, how I'm going to do this is in 3 parts, kind of pre-production, production, and post-production, if you will. In pre-production, I'll walk through choosing your first army and getting an eye for where you want to breach and clear into this safe room of a hobby. Production will be actually buying the physical models, the most infamous of steps for anyone who even recognizes the name 40k. And finally, in post-production, I'll give you my 2 cents on painting and assembling, not always in that order. But we begin at the beginning. A lot of people, myself included, will tell you to begin with Space Marines as your first army. An especially strong argument if you're here from Space Marine 2. But why say this? Well, because Space Marines are very much the hamburger of 40k. Simple to understand, basic enough for everyone to enjoy, they can be served in any number of ways with a number of sides, and most importantly of all, they're very difficult to screw up. Without getting into the stat line, which would make all but the most dedicated Excel users burst into tears, Space Marines have a very good spread. Good toughness, good aim, good melee, and bad personalities. They had to be lacking in something. Even a basic ass Astartes with nothing but a bolt gun can still kick the ass of most things that want to tangle with them. But a Space Marine doesn't always use a bolter, as we reach another, larger reason you might be recommended to play Marines. Since, like I said, the Marines can be served well done, medium rare, or extra bloody, there's a lot of room to experiment and find what tastes best for you. Maybe you're interested in melee and psychics, so you go big into the Blood Angels, which leads you down the line to the Tyranids. Say you're enjoying your time with the Salamander's penchant for close-range firepower with the emphasis on fire. You want to explore something similar, the Sororitas have you covered. Or you just like Marines but wish they could be even better and you sign on with the Custodes. Space Marines can safely open the doors in any number of ways to someone unsure what they want. But what if you really don't want to join the Emperor's All-Boys Club? Well, I wouldn't blame you. Like I say, Marines tend to be personality deficient since they're often just 1,000 copies of one guy, their Primarch. And I will always maintain that 40k becomes more interesting the further out you branch from Space Marines. So, what if you want to slide past those massive shoulder pauldrons and get into a faction with some strengths and some weaknesses? How do you choose one? That's actually something I can't tell you because, well, I don't know you. Unfortunately, you're just a nebulous void on the internet until you choose to or to not leave a comment. But, very fortunately, you know you. You know what aesthetics speak to you, and that is what's most important when you're picking your first army. You may be like 14-year-old me when I started this hobby, thinking big robots are cool, which leads you straight to the Tau. Or you're sick of being human, wish you could join the bugs and buy up Tyranids. Or Gene Stealers. And if that doesn't really work for you, or you need a tiebreaker, you can look at playstyles. Do you have a habit of throwing all defense and toughness out the window? Going so hard into offense you either kill quick or get reduced to paste? The Drukhari are like that too. Do you live for the moment in every battle when all strategy has fallen apart and it's just turned into a slugging match? So do the Orcs. I won't go into detail for every faction right now. There are a ton of videos you can find on them in minor or major detail. I may even do one myself in the future since it's a fun, easy, and evergreen concept for a series or video. Also, yes, I did just spend a paragraph and a half telling you to choose the army you like. But you know, a little encouragement can go a long way, and sometimes it's important to trust yourself over the meta. This hobby already has more than its fair share of meta hounds and fun police. You choose what you like, because it's quite the investment. That's a good way to get into production and actually buying the models. The point where most people who are looking into 40k stand up and say, I'm not interested in 40k anymore. But I'm here to get you over that hurdle. First thing you want to do is look into the models of your given army. No easy feat since even that seems to be locked behind a paywall. But never fear, the community is here. Full indexes are available for free with their points. Or, if you want something a little more digestible, I myself did a sum up for every unit in this entire game, at the time that video was made. Or if you want to do your own research with a more up-to-date database, I recommend Wahapedia or New Recruit, both of which I use myself. So, now you've got the info about all the units in your army stretching out before you like a tax return you have to do on your own for fun. How do you sort through it all? Well, what I would recommend doing is assigning them into 4 categories of descending importance. First, what is going to be most useful? Now, I am and always will be a proponent that aesthetics are king. But if you plan on playing the game at any point, you are going to want some units to form a solid backbone. Stuff that's got a good stat line relative to your army, supports the playstyle you want, and has been around forever. Prime grade A numero uno example of this would be the Leman Russ battle tank in the Imperial Guard. That thing has been around since the Guard's creation. It's got something like 90 variants. It is a solid investment. On the other side of things, you have the Predator series of tanks in Space Marines. These things have been around for a long while, but with the introduction of the Gladiator series of tanks, more or less filling the same roles, it's unsure if these two species can coexist, being 2 units that do more or less the same job. Second is what I've been saying, aesthetics. From buying, building, painting, and finally displaying, these things are going to be part of your life. Even the littlest guys need a lot of love and attention before they can be declared tabletop ready. So, get something you like. Maybe don't sculpt your entire army around one big, gaudy unit just because you like the looks of it, unless you're really insane like me. But make sure to pick the stuff you really love, so that way you'll have a full tank of love that will be slowly drained but not empty completely in the time it takes to make one of these little guys. Third tier down are what I dub the packing peanuts. The stuff you buy to fill the empty space in your given army. Maybe I've spec'd really hard into melee with my first picks, so now I'll keep some long-range units in mind to pick up later. Emphasis on later. We've officially moved out of the first round draft picks into stuff you get to pad the roster. Now, padding is good. It keeps you from getting bludgeoned to death. But no one's running out of their house going, "Holy shit, man, did you hear the news? U-Haul just got some new moving blankets." This is the stuff you kind of want, you kind of need, just not right away. Fourth, final, and potentially most important, the stuff you're not gonna buy. Don't kid yourself, unless you're playing a super small army like Leagues of Votann, that's small in number of units, not small in stature, you're not gonna own every single unit in your model's range. And you shouldn't. Some stuff doesn't work well with other stuff. Some stuff is comically overpriced. Some stuff is just plain ugly and not worth buying. So don't buy it. Create a blacklist and instead invest in the army you actually want. In my own experience, I may love me some Imperial Guard, but I don't want 10 dudes on horseback. I have fucking tanks! So, now we've got our shopping list and we're ready to surrender our money in exchange for goods. Ah, the free market at work. Typically, you're looking for a 1 to 2 exchange, meaning for every $1 you spend, you're gonna get 2 points on the table. More is better, less is worse, and if you're one of those brave souls playing Adeptus Mechanicus, you may not even be getting a 1-to-1 exchange. I'll be praying for you guys. But I'm gonna let you in on an open secret among the basement lords of 40k. Are you ready? Never buy at retail price. The only, and I mean only reason you should buy at full retail price is if you're getting it at your local hobby store. And then you can justify it as supporting a local small business, but even then it's a bit of a stretch. Now I hear you shout, but how do I get the models if I do not pay the price? There are ways. Easiest and most mainstream among them is Amazon, where you can almost always find a 10% discount from MSRP. Not a ton, but we save our pennies where we can, right? If you're willing to take secondhand models, Frontline Gaming and eBay are always available, with the latter being a bit more of a gamble, so be rigid. And if you're willing to follow me into this dark corner where lurks a black market so vile few dare to enter it, there's always Etsy. Here you will not find official 40k miniatures, and miniatures that are in no way connected to the 40k brand. Instead, you will find many 3D printed models which can serve as more than sufficient surrogates for the real plastic thing. Be sure to check a seller's reputation before buying, but I speak from experience buying on here, and yeah, I'm happy with what I got. In some cases, they're even better than the official models. Here we see the Catachan Jungle Fighter, melting, looking like his arms were drawn by AI, though this design far predates AI design. Now, with the power of 3D printing technology, we see the Karatachan Jungle Commando, with features that actually resemble a human person. You don't even need to buy whole models. Say you are interested in a niche guard faction most of the rest of the world has forgotten, so have no hope of ever seeing their models again. You pick up some heads and presto changeo with some existing models to revive that dead faction. Disclaimer, Mousero is not affiliated with Etsy or any of its sellers. I'm just happy with the results. Now, at long last, you've picked your faction, you've got your models, put them together, which really doesn't need to be explained much, except to say that you should use plastic glue most of the time to avoid causing gaps, and only use super glue on large unwieldy pieces like wings, and we come to that final nightmarish step of painting. I'm actually not going to go into the specific how-to of painting because there are many other videos that do a better job than I could ever achieve. Link to my preferred starter in the description. What I will give you, though, is some advice on picking your color scheme. There is no end to the amount of inspiration you can draw on how to paint your models. Going back to what I was saying earlier about starting with Space Marines, there are a million chapters with their own unique designs. So you got a ton to draw from, and whatever you end up picking will probably be canon. Even beyond that, just go to Google and type in 40k, your army name, paint scheme, and bam! You'll have pages of inspiration. The tricky part is following the rule of KISS. Keep it simple, Snake Girl. I'll illustrate this by telling a story from my own experience, recounting a paint scheme I picked out for my Leagues of Votann, which ended up ruining the entire army for me. It's this scheme right here, the Mission to Mars. Looks pretty snazzy, right? Got the orange and teal for some complementing contrast, good base in white still with some room for black and silver. Nice scheme. Let's go into what it takes to make this. Alright, the armor is white, so we'll prime in white and save a step. Next most prevalent color is orange, start putting that on there. Move on to black, getting the gun, the gloves, and that real asshole part on the belt. Then I can move into teal, and then silver for the tertiary colors. This guy has a face, so gotta get some flesh color out too. Now for some white to correct the areas I inevitably hit by accident when I was painting the orange and black. Now to re-get out the orange to correct the mistakes I made with the black. All of this for one model out of a minimum of 10, probably more since they're core infantry, and this is before I can even consider edge highlighting, dry brushing, shaders, and the unholy duty of transfers. I've heard tales of people who will spend a full 2 hours painting one Hormigaunt and genuinely enjoying it too. And you know what? Good for them. As they say, time you enjoy wasting is not time wasted. And I envy their patience. So don't take this as a tirade against long painting sessions, especially if you're into that minute detail. The point I'm trying to make, and I hope what you would take away from this, is that less is more. The less paints you have to bring out for one model, the happier you will be, especially if you're just starting out. Make it easier on yourself. You can always go back and add camo patterns or hazard stripes if you're bored one day and get struck with the Bob Ross inspiration to paint. But don't marry yourself to one complex scheme which you have to repeat so many times until looking at your unpainted models fills you with dread. I say again, make it easy on yourself. With a base coat, a secondary, and a tertiary color, you'll do just fine. Late addition here. Another reason you might be recommended to play Marines first is you'll see that they have a lot of flat spaces on their models, which are usually painted one color. Again, making it easy if you're new to individual aspects of the hobby, in this case painting. And that is it. Of course there are more advanced lessons by more advanced creators, but this is just general advice to help you get in the door, get over that first mountain. Get the models you like, and get them up to a standard you can be proud of when you bring them to the table. Literally. Now I will be heading back to my traditional way of speaking about 40k. Through the lore. So tune in next time for a meme explanation, a character profile, or I don't know, I don't plan these that far ahead.